Chapter 1044. Wilbur frowned and looked over. He was surprised. Isn't that the woman I met on the train? I misjudged her, he thought. The cooks were also shocked. They could not figure out how a stranger got into the palace. Wilbur looked at the woman and said, "You tricked me, so that's quite remarkable. What's your name?" "I'm Debbie." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Penn." Debbie essentially walked toward Wilbur, and then she stood still. Wilbur said slowly, "It looks like you came prepared. Can you tell me why you're here?" "To kill you, of course," Debbie replied with a smile. The cooks were instantly surprised. They wondered what was going on. Wilbur scoffed coldly when he heard that. He said, "You're quite confident." Debbie smiled and said, "I wasn't that confident when I was on the train, but you used the dimensional arrow. So your spiritual energy must be exhausted now. You seem to have used up all your tricks. Killing you wouldn't be difficult now, right?" Wilbur looked troubled. It was true that he could not use a dragon's safe haven again within 24 hours. The dimensional arrow also exhausted his spiritual energy. He could only use his physical power, and it was equivalent to a beginner sanctuary level cultivator. Debbie dared to show up, so he was afraid that she was no ordinary sanctuary level cultivator. "Can you tell me why you want to kill me?" asked Wilbur. Debbie chuckled and replied, "Because I'm a killer. Do you have to ask? It's for the money, of course." Wilbur was silent. He knew he could not get any information out of her, so he stopped talking. Suddenly, a death scythe was formed in her hand. The death scythe was huge and menacing. It was ignited in spiritual flames with runes in it. A powerful spiritual pressure instantly spread when the weapon appeared. The cooks were terrified. They breathed hard and kept backing away. Wilbur frowned and held the historical halberd tightly. Spiritual flames ignited on the historical halberd. However, his spiritual pressure was much weaker than Debbie's. Debbie's spiritual pressure was like the roaring wind. Wilbur could only protect several meters around himself. It felt like a small boat on the ocean faced with big waves. He could topple over any time. The cooks could not believe the woman had a powerful weapon like that. They were shocked, and they had a bad feeling about it. Debbie was smiling menacingly. She sprinted toward Wilbur. The death scythe danced like a blooming lotus of death. It slashed toward the various body parts of Wilbur. Wilbur looked displeased. He wielded the historical halberd and blocked the attacks that rained down on him. The clash of the weapons kept causing explosions. The noise was deafening. Debbie laughed maniacally. Shadows were formed from the death scythe, and each attack against Wilbur was fatal. The attacks grew increasingly ferocious, so Wilbur was forced to back away. Debbie licked her red lips. She was more manic the more she fought. Wilbur had no choice but to back away. Luckily, he had the godly training form. The divine skill had no requirements for weapons. All weapons could be improved with that divine skill, and it was why he was able to hang on. The cooks were terrified to see Wilbur at a disadvantage. The woman seemed like a villain, so they wondered what would happen to them if Wilbur was defeated. Wilbur finally shouted angrily when he backed away for 10 meters. The dragon head mark on his back glowed and infused dragon power into the historical halberd. The historical halberd instantly ignited with red flames. A powerful spiritual pressure was emitted.